Welcome to the beautiful Spiti Valley module number 20 as part of the ongoing Himalayan webinar series. This is Peter from Chennai, going live on Zoom every day at 8 o'clock. Videos posted on Insta, TV, YouTube, Facebook, and the blog ultrajourneys.org. Today we're going to talk about a beautiful traverse above the main Spiti Valley, going through several remote villages and crossing actually three deeply cut side streams. Here you can see Hickam, the highest post office in the world. That's on 4,200 meter altitude. A barren landscape is similar to Ladakh and Sarab, the previous two regions we discussed, but still people are able to cultivate here specific crops by intelligent irrigation from the side streams. So Spiti is located in the northeast of Himachal, bordered by Chamba, Kangra, Kulu, and Kinnaur, which we already partly covered. On the top, it will be bordered partly by Tibet and partly by Ladakh. Here you can see a diagrammatic representation. So Spiti Valley is formed mainly by the Spiti River here, which originates from the Kumzumpa, giving access to Lahore, and then basically flows here southeast towards a corner here, Sundo, where it joins the Shuttle River and becomes the Shuttle Valley that goes to Rikompio, the district headquarters, and Rampur further downstream. It is bordered on both sides here. The west by the Pin High Ranges, connectable through various passes, and on the top by the Great Himalayan Range. So it's a bit of an isolated district valley, disconnected from its neighbors. So in this section, we'll show you a beautiful traverse. So Spiti itself is beautiful. The main valley that you see here, it's pretty wide. It's quite open stream, at least at this section, before it becomes more like a gorge downstream. Here is the main town of Kaza. We'll actually be going through a traverse that goes above, like some 300-400 meters above the main Spiti River Valley. We'll start from a town called Dankar, which used to be the previous headquarters, has a beautiful monastery and palace, and from there follow an upper trail that leads to Langza, from where we cross the Lingti River Valley. Lingti comes from far above and drains the high ranges of the Great Himalayan Range. From there we come to a deserted town of Demul, cross over to a pass, and then go through some very deserted jeep trek to a Buddhist monastery, a Gompa of Komik. Then hit Hickam. From Hickam, we'll keep on proceeding to Langza. Langza, we get down in a steep 500-meter deeply cut gorge, crossing the Shilla River. There's a similar named peak called the Shilla Peak to the northeast of this. And then we climb up to Tashigang, another very remote small settlement through which we cross the pass, go to Geit above the famous ski Gompa here, to finally hit Hickam, where we cross the third major side stream. This is like 1,000 meters deep cut gorge, the Parachu, coming from the Parangla Pass from the Great Himalayan Range to finally hit Chichim. So let's take a look. Here we can see the same traverse in Google Earth. So you can see the Lingti River Valley here. You can see the Shilla River Valley there and the Parachu over there. Here is the main Spiti River Valley with Kaza, the main town as of current days, even though the old capital was Dankar. So we'll never touch the main Spiti Valley except from the beginning here, from Lingti, where we climb up to Dankar. So you can see the landscape is colored quite differently here. The high altitude rocks geography has unique gradients and shades, basically. Okay, so let's start off from the old capital of Dankar, where we have a 1,000-year-old monastery. You can see these unusual erosive pillars here formed by water erosion in this, again, high altitude desert, so mostly like snow melt, we can say. Dankar, most of This section is available on OpenStreetMaps. It has detailed maps, as Spiti is a pretty touristic valley. So here you can even see all the details of Dankar with the monastery, the fort on top, Dankar Fort, and then also a beautiful lake above Dankar from where the town will be irrigated. Here you can see an old lady with kind of a mobile prayer wheel. Let's get a small live performance.
ये क्या है? ये क्या है? माने है. माने मतलब? माने position mo. Oh. माने position mo channel. Oh, Buddhism में. Buddhism.
Oh, this is like a prayer.
Oh, prayer, yeah.
Position.
Yeah.
Like.
ये ऐसा करते हैं ना. आप किसी prayer करना. Prayer किसी गाना गाए. हाँ, Buddhist गाना. ये Buddhist के माने position mo channel. हाँ. किसी गाना गाइए आप.
Okay. Well, here we then come on the top of the Dankar Gompa, like 1,000-year-old Gompa, still quite touristic. Quite some tourists from Gaza walk up to this place. From here, the top of the rooftop of Dankar Gompa, we have stunning views on the Spiti River Valley. Let's take a look.
Lama last visited here 2008, it seems, 10 years back.
Okay.
It is supposedly one of his residents.
We're overlooking the beautiful Spiti Valley from top of the Dankar Monastery. Deep down below you can see the Spiti, the wide Spiti River flowing inside a high altitude desert made of rocks and stones. The monastery gives an eagle-eye viewpoint on the surrounding valley, built 1,200 years back along the steep slopes of the Himalayas. All views are stunning, 360 degrees. On the right side here we can see Dankar village, a small green oasis in the rock desert. Another big gompa built on the opposite side of the town. Voila, that was a 360 from Dankar Gompa. And see quite a few foreign tourists visiting these famous tourist places around Gaza. Here is an interior view on the Dankar Gompa, typical kind of interior decoration seen in a Buddhist monastery. And then these beautiful ancient wall paintings here, which are still in fairly decent condition. Okay, so as we climb higher, we can get a bird's eye view on the upper side of Dankar village. We can see the green farmlands there and the high ranges of the Pin National Park. Here we can see the old Dankar fort, which is built on top of the hill above the town of Dankar. A little bit in bad condition, highly eroded. Voila, one more bird's eye view here. We are standing on top of the Dankar fort, which seems to be the highest point, overlooking the beautiful Spiti Valley, 300 meters below the Dankar Monastery. And voila. So then here we can see the confluence of the Pin River, where it meets the Spiti River. Pin comes down from the Pin Baba and the Pin Parvati passes that connect Kulu/Kinnaur to Spiti. You can see on the banks of the river, with again irrigation from the side valleys, people are able to do farming in this desert. So here then we go for a run on the typical trails that we follow in this traverse. above the Spiti Valley there. Finally, we come across the major Lingti side valley, the first of the three side valleys that we'll be crossing, coming from 4 interior ranges. So here you can see that Lingti Valley deeply cutting into the landscape. From there, we actually get into a side valley, which is like a steep gorge that will lead up to the remote village of Demul. Demul, again, located along a small side stream with, which is a farming settlement. You'll see beautiful green farmlands here in this high altitude deserts. This is already quite high above the side valleys, as you can see. So initially here, we get into a small side valley from the Lingti River Valley and climbing up through a narrow gorge to the town of Demul, where we see some beautiful herd of ibex, wild mountain goats grazing the slopes. Here we can see them running away as I approach the village of Demul.
A herd of ibex running away.
Climbing up to safe heights. You can wonder what they still graze in this desert. Okay, so then finally we come in this beautiful green farming settlements around Dankar village. Here you can see a panoramic view on the village, which is built in a kind of an inside valley above this gorge side valley of the Lingti River Valley. Here is a small panoramic view on the town.
A panoramic view on Demul town, as seen from the small gompa on top of the village. Beautiful, colorful buildings, solar panels. Different texture mountains all around, and as usual the fertile cultivation fields on one side of the city.
Okay, so then in the Gompa again of this Buddhist settlement, we see two elder ladies spinning a big prayer wheel here, kind of a big version of the mobile version in the previous lady in Dankar village. Voila. And here we have the next video overlooking the traverse towards
On the way from Gomeng Gompa to Demul, out of this world landscape.
Voila, you can see a beautiful kind of different texture here. Small layer of vegetation actually on top of this barren rock desert. So finally we hit the Gompa of Gomek, an old Buddhist monastery at a pretty high altitude here around, here we have 4.8, 4.7, 4.6, around 4,500 meter altitude, quite high, before we hit another farming settlement of Hekim. Here you can see a view inside the monastery of Gomeng Gompa. The monks are chanting Tibetan prayer scrolls. You can see the Tibetan prayer scrolls which are chanted there. Finally, then we come to the beautiful town of Hikim here, located straight above the main town of Kaza. Lush green farmlands here below the village. You also have these Ammonites. Ammonites are ancient sea fossils. So this again proves the fact that the Himalayas were eventually an ancient seabed separating the Indian continent from the main Asian subcontinent before both, due to tectonic forces, collided and pushed up the seafloor to become the highest mountain range in the world. Here you can see Hikim's supposed to be the highest post office in the world at 4440 meters. Voila, another beautiful view here on the same kind of, you can see where the farmlands and the village is still in a kind of a valley setting. Once the force of the water picks up in the same stream running through that village, it cuts deeply into this highly erosive landscape to the main town of Kaza below there. Finally, proceeding further, we come to Langza. Langza, from where again we'll be hitting steep into the Shilla valley, the Shilla river, which again deeply cuts, just like the Lingti River Valley, into the landscape. Here you can see a topographic map as we go from Langza. We don't follow the road to Kaza, but we get into a side valley to gradually descend 500 meters into this Shilla side valley. From there again, we climb up steeply to the remote town of Tashigang. Here you can see that side valley and Tashigang on the opposite side. You can see a very deeply cut gorge that is basically formed by a small side stream carrying snow melt water in the beginning of summer and cutting deep into the highly erosive rocks. Here we can take a small view from the bottom of the gorge.
We're walking now along a small trail deep inside the gorge, separating both villages. Let's hope the trail will bring us to our destination. It's like a vertical wall, hundreds of meters high, which separates us from the surrounding plains.
Voila. So here we could also see some dead animal on the way, possibly hit by a rock coming from high above in this gorge. Here then we cross the main Shilla stream, so pretty wild stream through a small bridge from one side of the valley to the other ones, where we climb up steeply to the village of Tashigang. Here we can see the Shilla as it runs again in this barren landscape, almost like here you can clearly see it's like the feeling of a desert, nothing but dry rock and dust. Due to that we're getting higher and higher here. Spiti is like high up, so complete rain shallow region. Here you can see the opposite view of the gorge to which we came from Langza. We climbed down here through this gorge, hit the main Shilla river, cross the bridge and climb up steeply on this side. 500-meter descent from the town of Lanza, green little oasis in the desert. Here is then the small and remote town of Tashigang, so pretty remote. It's a dead end, just like Demel, so very few people pass through this. You can see some dry sheep wool here, dry by the villagers to probably make blankets, warm clothing for the long winter months in this high altitude. Here then a bit further, high above Kigompa, we come on the village of Geit, where we can see villagers are reaping the harvest. Here they are basically cultivating peas, beans. And here finally we come to the bigger town of Hikim at the base of the Kanamo peak, 6,000-meter peak here. And also located on the third valley, the Parachu here. Parachu is another next to the Lingti and the Shilla, deeply cutting into the terrain before it hits the main Spiti Valley here, a little bit north of Ki and Kaza. So here also we have what's supposed to be the highest bridge, I think, in Asia. So connecting Hikim and Chishim village and crossing the Parachu 1,000 meters below. So this is like deep canyon, which was recently connected. Otherwise you had to go around like a long distance, several hours to reach the other village nearby. Here you can see the depth actually of this deeply cut Parachu. And again, you can see some distant farmlands there. I think this is Hikim. Voila, finally we proceed further then from Chichim through another some 10-15 kilometers on the right side of the Spiti Valley before we again descend into the Spiti Valley on the way to the Kunzumla, finally Lozar. Voila, this was a small remote traverse across remote villages in this spiritual high altitude desert of Spiti. Stay tuned. Tomorrow we'll be going through a beautiful traverse deep inside Zanskar.